What you have just heard, listeners all over the world, is a warning. And you will hear this warning from here on out. You've been listening to your leaders tell you that there is a great move toward democracy in the world. You witnessed the parting of the Iron Curtain, the fall of the Berlin Wall, the fracturing of the Soviet Union. And this is all supposedly toward a new worldwide democracy. Democracy is a code word for socialism, and that's why our forefathers established a republic. But don't get down, folks. All is not lost.
I'm coming back.
The problem lies within each and every one of you, and therein also lies the answer. I'm your host, William Cooper, and you're listening to the Hour of the Time.
Crazy, and that's how it goes. You never ever know about the NWO. Deep behind enemy lines for October 4th, 2020. Top headlines in the news today. How deep down the rabbit hole are we going to go? Yeah. It's all breaking loose all across the planet. People are finding out now. Bill Cooper's book, Behold a Pale Horse. Oh my goodness, golly, has inspired the rise of violent militia groups and condemned the rise of QAnon conspiracy theories. Yes, sir. Move. More earth changes and geopolitical upheaval, and another update to the New World Order from the No Link News Desk. Move over, harp-tards. You'll not see this earthquake news or earthquake prediction from Doomsday Dumbass Disinfo Dutchie's Magic 3D Earthquake Crystal Ball first. So in case you missed this, or you want to wait around for seeing it on sloppy seconds from Doomsday Disinfo Dumbass Dutchie, let's get to the science of things today. Yeah. Me and my evil ways. How about this? How about it? Yeah. Back in 1991, approximately, shortly after I began listening to the Hour of the Time. Yeah, somehow, some way, I didn't get and trust all the news that I saw on TV. And way before the internet, I bought a shortwave radio and a CB. Free band, they call it. Now today, Liberty Tree Radio. Oh, my goodness. What happened there? I got some adjusting to do, don't I? Hold on a second. There we go. Why did that? Oh, man, okay. Fixed it. Now, didn't know why that didn't fit right. Now it does fit right. Okay. So, anyhow, back in 1991, I didn't believe what the news media was saying and bought me a shortwave radio. A digital scanner thing from Radio Shack, and bought me a CB and decided to inform myself and start learning things because, heck, Rush Limbaugh, man, that guy was on fire, literally, when it came to connecting the dots. Yeah. Realizing, man, somebody's been pulling the wool over the sheep's eyes a little too long. But anyhow, back to the story. Needless to say, William Cooper inspired me. I got his book, listened to his radio show, and that's where most of you out there, so mofos like Doomsday Nuts, you need to understand. Go out there and get yourself up to speed, listen to 40 hours of the Mystery of Babylon religion. You comprehend what we're talking about here, how deep the rabbit hole goes. MK Ultra, yeah, you never know. Yeah, never know. How William Cooper and his book, Behold a Pale Horse, has given rise to the violent extremist militia groups being condemned today, like QAnon in Washington, D.C. So, all those fans out there, you never know, a shout out to Spider-Man. Yeah. Hell, you never know. That today, news headlines connect all the dots. How William Cooper influenced the Patriot movement. He influenced the Tea Party and right-wing Republicans across the country to take it upon themselves to exercise their constitutional rights to govern themselves. You see now being condemned by Democrats. They want to talk about democracy, but those that want to practice democracy are being condemned this week. Even though William Cooper is being mocked by many about what he wrote in his book, Behold a Pale Horse. I just find it fascinating how liberals don't comprehend baby eaters and satanic blood sacrifices yet. But armed with the theories, you never know, and Kathy O'Brien even came to town. She told me all about it too. Yeah. But who am I to point out child satanic rituals by elected officials? So anyways, that would bring you up to speed. If you haven't seen the news yet, this all goes in. We're going to explain it today on my show. I guess if you want to really add up and figure into the mix, ask me anything about William Cooper. I'm no expert, right? You know what I'm saying? So, let's transition over here. We'll take this over here. See what's going on in Washington, right? They're condemning right-wing extremist militia, violent QAnon conspiracy theorists.
Extremist groups on the right and the left that advocate violence as a method of achieving political goals threaten the very foundations of our democracy, and I fully support this resolution and its denunciation of one such group called QAnon. But the American people can see with their own eyes where the violence on our streets is coming from, and I deeply regret that the majority is not willing to call out by name such groups as Antifa, or to acknowledge that such evil forces even exist. We must speak out together against all such groups, and I'm deeply troubled that for some reason we cannot. We need to know who's funding these groups. We can already see with our own eyes who's encouraging them. We can see with our own eyes whose mayors have deliberately withheld police protection from their citizens as these extremist-driven mobs run rampant in our communities. We can see with our own eyes those politicians calling for defunding police departments that are the only means of defense that our citizens have. We can see with our own eyes those prosecutors who have refused to hold accountable those who perpetrate violence in our communities and who instead prosecute citizens who are desperately trying to defend themselves. So I'm pleased to support this resolution, but it is no substitute for a clear and unambiguous stand against all political extremism and violence that this House, for some reason, refuses to take. I yield back.
Okay, there you go. You heard it right there. They're in, they were in Washington this week condemning a resolution to condemn QAnon right-wing extremists and the militia groups that they were pressing President Trump on during his debate if you haven't been up to speed. So put your mask on and shut up. We don't want to hear from you people. What's going on, right? You heard it right from Biden's own lips. Shut up, man. Well, this guy just shut up, man, is what we're told. So, you know, get your QAnon mask. Will you shut up mask on and shut up, fool. You know what I'm saying? So, what I'm going to try to do here is, strangely enough, if I can find House. Another video on this. So, part one. Here's part one. Oh, we got this. Okay, hold on a second. So what's this got to do with Bill Cooper's book? Yeah. All of this baseless conspiracies, they say. No doubt. Part one of two. Let's see what he's got to say here.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and thank you to the gentle lady for yielding. I rise today to urge a yes vote, a unanimous yes vote, on Mr. Malinowski's resolution. And quite frankly, I cannot believe that I have to stand on the floor of the United States House of Representatives to issue these remarks. Every one of us here swore the very same oath to defend our nation from enemies, both foreign and domestic. And QAnon is a dangerous enemy lurking right within our borders that must be forcefully and again, unanimously condemned. What they propagate is not real. Their baseless conspiracy theories, lies, and fear-mongering are creating something, however, that is very real. And that is division, it is hate, and if left unaddressed, violence against fellow Americans. Just this week alone, my dear friend, Representative Malinowski, has received numerous death threats for simply condemning QAnon. And Representative Spanberger, a former CIA officer, has been labeled a terrorist. And how could we forget Representatives Scalise and Giffords, both being shot within the last number of years by deranged people? Every one of you here knows the very lives of our colleagues are now at risk. So who's going to speak against it? Has hate really become a partisan issue? Is reality really up for debate? I applaud my friend, my dear friend, Representative Riggleman, who has spoken very forcefully and immediately against QAnon, and I know others are following suit. But for those who don't, for those who do not, what reason could you possibly have to remain silent? My friends, we are all Americans, every single one of us. And Americans are looking to us right now to model principled, thoughtful, decent leadership at this increasingly fragile time in our history, and history shall be our judge. I yield the remainder of my time.
Right, as I reported at the top of the show, of course, US President Donald Trump has tested positive for coronavirus.
All right, yep. So this bill, resolution, presented by Mr. McClintock. Okay, let's see what Mr. McClintock has to say about, well, I guess they're all fucking fucked up because in the head. They think that these left-wing Antifa anarchists are all part of QAnon and William Cooper's book, Behold a Pale Horse? Come on. Seriously? Come on, people. I think you people watching, you can pull your head out of your ass. You're so stupid. No wonder you got the lowest fucking approval rating in fucking history of the planet. But who am I to point this shit out? QAnon. Yeah. It's been violent. Yeah. Look at you blaming all the Portland and Seattle and all these left-wing mobsters on QAnon.
Mr. Speaker, it's one of the oldest lies in the world, a blood libel. And it always goes something like this, that there is a powerful secret group of people who just happen, many of them to be Jewish, and they're trying to control the world and, for good measure, kidnapping our children. This is the central conspiracy theory that QAnon promotes today. And it sounds crazy, so crazy that sometimes we don't take it seriously enough. But throughout history, conspiracy theories, just like this one, have fueled prejudice, terrorism, even genocide. And today, social media is fanning the flames. Their algorithms know everything about us, what we search for online, our biases, and they feed us more and more extreme versions of what they think we want so that we stay glued to our screens and see more ads and buy more stuff. That, above all, is what is causing so many of our fellow Americans to fear and hate one another. And while many extremist groups on the left and the right are recruiting followers online, nothing today matches the scale of QAnon. Nothing comes close. On Facebook alone, QAnon pages and groups have had up to 3 million members. There have been days this year when the most widely shared social media messages in the country are those promoted by QAnon. The physical threat is also real. The FBI, as we've heard, says that political conspiracy theories like QAnon increasingly motivate domestic extremists to commit violence. The Combating Terrorism Center at West Point says that QAnon has demonstrated its capacity to radicalize to violence individuals at an alarming speed. And QAnon adherents have, in fact, committed numerous criminal and violent acts in the last 2 years. I think the greater threat is to our social fabric. QAnon is like a pill that immunizes you against objective reality, which millions of our fellow Americans are taking. It destroys trust in government, in democratic institutions, in science, and in facts. Mr. Speaker, the resolution we will pass today categorically condemns QAnon. It has an equal number of Republican and Democratic co-sponsors. I want to thank them. Representatives Riggleman, Kinzinger, Fitzpatrick, Gottheimer, and Luria. Our goal is a fully bipartisan repudiation of this incredibly dangerous phenomenon. Extremist movements gain validation from the belief that they are making inroads into the mainstream. So it's important to make clear we are unified against them, both parties. No hedging, no winks and nods. Now, there's just one more point I want to make today, and that is that when we vote for this resolution today, and I'm confident we will all vote for it, we need to mean it. And here's the only reference that I will make to partisan differences. It is an objective fact that this particular group of extremists today identifies with the right. There are a lot of them. And right now, even as we vote to condemn QAnon, there are political operatives out there putting out vile attacks that deliberately play to the paranoid fears QAnon promotes. Some people may rationalize this by pretending, oh, QAnon, it's not that bad. These folks are just against sex trafficking, which is a real threat, or that they're just against the deep state, and hey, so is President Trump. Some might say there are crazy groups on the left too, and that is absolutely true. And this resolution condemns them all. But you know what? When I criticize Antifa, as I have, I don't get half a dozen death threats in a day. Only one of these things, for now at least, is considered an active terrorist threat by the FBI. Only one is a political force. Only one is winning elections. Remember what QAnon is. It is an anti-Semitic, conspiracy-mongering cult that the FBI considers a potential terrorist threat, and it has real, growing political power. So, if you vote against fire today, please don't play with fire tomorrow. Don't be righteous here today and then go QAnon light on the campaign trail. Don't do or say anything to fan the flames further. Mr. Speaker, America desperately needs to come together. Conspiracy theories are tearing us apart. Let us pass this resolution and do it overwhelmingly and with true conviction so that we can say clearly we have all had enough. Thank you, and I yield back.
You heard it. You heard it right from his mouth. He's playing with fire. Conspiracy theories are tearing America apart. How about it, Spider-Man? How about it there, everyone? I'm back. Crazier than ever, aren't I? So what is this all about? How's these conspiracies and where did it all come from? Well, let's just say this channel was dedicated to the legacy of William Cooper. And when the authorities killed William Cooper in a burst of gunfire outside his hilltop home in eastern Arizona, he was an author and radio host who had attracted a rabid following among UFO buffs and pioneers in the militia movement. Hey, Doomsday Dummy Dutchie. Yeah, Disinfo Dutchie guy. Earthquake forecasting guy. I think this is what attracted you to make up your fucking fantasy earthquake USGS conspiracy campaign. But for most of us, we know from the book Behold a Pale Horse and nightly shortwave radio show, hey, it was William Cooper who lifted the veil on how the world actually works, dummy. So if you're listening, Doomsday Disinfo Dummy Dutchie, I know you are. But it was through his death in 2001, Bill Cooper's legacy was cemented, and he was and continues to be today the legend behind No Link News Channel. His book became a defining text for conspiracy-minded people and what might have otherwise been seen as an amateurish hodgepodge of ideas like Doomsday Dumbass Disinfo Dutchie has. He's earned the gravitas once he was gunned down. He is now the martyr of our movement, no doubt about it. So we all know the official story. William Cooper was killed by deputies who tried to resist his arrest on local criminal charges. And devotees would make him a martyr. Even today in the halls of Congress, they want to silence William Cooper's movement. Global forces thought, well, hey, They just remain to be some stupid dummy. Hillary Clinton claimed, yeah, the deplorables. So let's see, nearly 30 years after its publication, Behold a Pale Horse remains a bestseller, finding new audiences for whom Cooper's warnings of a cashless society, a socialist order that devalues work, the confiscation of weapons, global leadership usurping the sovereignty of the United States still resonates today. And though portions of the book are dated, some paragraphs still strike with readers an eerie precedent. Cooper described a CIA plan to induce people via drugs and hypnosis. I met Kathy O'Brien, who told me all about MK Ultra and being a CIA mind-controlled sex slave and the such of her incidences she was a victim to, including her child being offered up during a satanic sex act ritual. Written in her book, Transformation. It's too horrific to describe on YouTube. So, needless to say, it's one piece of perverted information I'm sure the politicians are begging you to not see. The middle class, he wrote, is begging the government to do away with the Second Amendment. The desire to shoot up schoolyards, Cooper said, such incidents would hasten the call for gun control. Cooper's work describes a conspiracy that is timeless. And nearly all that has been told to you is an illusion. So, yeah, everything you've been told is a lie. You have to reteach yourself. And if you think shadowy forces are pulling the strings, it's because they are. Don't trust anybody. Be on guard. Fight the New World Order, Bill Cooper said. His mission, unless we wake the people up from their sleep, nothing short of civil war will stop the planned outcome. Cooper wrote in his book, Opening Pages, that Cooper would die in a shootout with authorities, and in his book he suggested it was an honorable way to die. I wonder if doomsday disinfo dumbass Dutchy and his earthquake bullshit feels that that's an honorable way to die if he keeps producing all these lies when they come knocking on his door 3 o'clock in the morning. I believe that those principles aren't much of anything to be proud for. But who am I to point this out? Doomsday Dutchy? Dumbass, mofo, earthquake, God wannabe forecaster? Yeah, I remember your Lord of the Harp Ring bullshit. Yeah. Believe me. You won't die for any movement, will you, Dutchy? You won't die for all those 500,000 subscribers you got. Believe me, you don't have no principle when you're ready for the consequences of what you've just frickin' done all these years with all your bullshit, make-believe, fantasy, doomsday shit. So, but Cooper wrote and began his life and then ended it with his creed. Are you ready for your creed to begin there, Dutchy? Yeah. Never know. I started listening to the radio back in 1991 before the internet. Listening to Bill Cooper, and then before that, wondering how, I just wanted to know where he came from. And he started spilling the beans about this clandestine information from top secret documents he read as a member of the U.S. Naval Intelligence Unit. So Cooper not only used his book, but also in-person lectures. Hold on. Yeah. Da-da-ba-da-bum, Mission Impossible theme song. Picture that right now, okay? I don't want to break any copyright laws. So imagine Mission Impossible theme song in your mind right now. He was the forerunner to conspiracy theorists today, such as Alex Jones, even though you've never heard of William Cooper and his dark conspiratorial thinking. He now has endured even more criticism, being condemned by Democrats and Republicans in Washington, D.C. this week. One audience has found, behold, a pale horse. It is the Patriot wing of the Republican Party. So some members of this movement from Arizona, there's a group of far-right Republicans that are trading thoughts on conspiracy theories and their hatred of a one-world government. The Arizona news media, the Arizona Republic, the Arizona Central are now producing documentaries and research and news on Bill Cooper's connection with QAnon, the Patriot movement, and all these groups. Look, elected officials are running scared, aren't they? So the Arizona Republic reviewed thousands of groups' protests, comments. They're searching around the internet. They're trying to figure out where, they're trying to connect the dots. How many of us are there? Well, my goodness. They're not done with me yet, are they? Well, anyways, I'm almost done with Behold a Pale Horse, which details deep state control. Yeah, so the Arizona, the newsreader was almost, they read the book, they're reading the book. Yeah, they're reading the book now. Deep state control using school shooting, etc. as political motives to control the USA. Your comments, that's very scary, member commented. May 2018. Okay, yeah. It is a pretty scary book, buddy. It's flippin' frightening. And it's attracted followers of the conspiracy theory known as QAnon. And Democrats are doing their best to condemn and wipe out this movement, and then they're bid for their globalist bankers to shield their perversions, including devouring babies and sacrificing. Ted Gunderson and what was it there? Oh, Ted Gunderson even mentioned about in his investigation into anyways, we'll move on to that. But it's just on the tip of my tongue. Congressman, almost done. I'm almost got it. Anyways, if you've seen the concluded perversions that even Ted Gunderson mentioned in his investigation, QAnon adherents believe an anonymous figure inside government is sporadically posting cryptic clues to corruption and perpetrations of child sex crimes, using various online bulletins. The Franklin cover-up, that's it, by John DeCamp, was one of the perpetrations in his book of child sex crimes, using satanic cult rituals and sacrificing blood sacrifices by many elected officials. It's what Ted Gunderson reported, and then William Cooper on the shortwave radio show described in detail. I met Ted Gunderson years ago in 1997 that leaked this information for QAnonymous to research into. Also, in this top secret child sex crime syndicate, you might want to look into Kathy O'Brien's claims too. Is the most deadly game that was produced by Anthony at Guerrilla News Network. I'm sure QAnon knows all about how Kathy O'Brien was abducted and turned into and became a MK Ultra mind-controlled sex slave. So, I'm not making a spectacle of this. This is what whistleblowers do. But hey, we've already seen how much of a spectacle that's appearing in the news. Adherent to Jake Angeli, who is intentionally making a spectacle of himself by appearing at Arizona protest wearing a fur hat topped with horns, carrying a weathered sign that reads, "Q sent me." Okay, hold on a second. Q sent me. Q sent me. We'll get this up here so you can see what I'm talking about if I want. Whoops. There we go. So this is the Arizona Patriots are building a community around Bill Cooper's conspiracies. Did you know that, Spider-Man? Huh? Just bringing you up to speed, everyone that ever know about the NWO. So here you see Jake Angeli that believes secretive groups control the world. The Illuminati, Trilateral Commission, the Bilderberg Group, among others, have felt validated by finding Bill Cooper mentioned them in his book. Angeli said that the government needed to kill Bill Cooper to silence him. And when you really do enough research, he tied it all together. You know, I have to agree, he tied it all together. So another tie-in to Behold a Pale Horse, Cooper claimed he had Q-level security clearance, too. Bill Cooper was a whistleblower, joined the military after high school, and was part of that team that, well, claimed to have a bunch of secret documents. And years later, he wrote in his book and produced the documents, and according to his life and some of it, Cooper said the public would have to accept a New World Order global government. So back in 1972, he returned to the United States shortly after. He said in his book and attempted to tell what he knew. Around that time, after leaving the Navy, he was riding his motorcycle and boom! He claimed somebody from the deep state collided with him, caused an accident, and lose his leg. While he was in the hospital, Cooper claimed that the CIA came to his bedside and told him, did he learn a lesson yet? Well, he said, let me be a good little boy, leave me alone. Silently, he vowed that one day he would release all the information and share it. He sent papers to be published and wished to say, needless to say, all this. By the late 1980s, Cooper had moved camp to Verde, Arizona, was traveling around the country giving lectures. Wherever he appeared, he set up merchandise tables to sell his writings and recordings. But by September 1989, Cooper gave nearly a 3-hour lecture in Sedona, and that is still pretty much on the internet if you can find it. I think I still have the Sedona lecture too, but who am I to point this out? About getting tough questions from dummies condemning Bill Cooper's conspiracies. So, boom. Move this back to here. Boom. So, eventually, Behold a Pale Horse was published in 1991. And the video behind me is that video produced about the book, Behold a Pale Horse. In the opening pages, Cooper wrote the ideas and conclusions on his work were his alone. And it is possible that there were more than one conclusion, and he said he could be wrong. And I want to provide one little add-in to this mix, too, how listening to one of his first radio shows, pretty laid it out pretty much blunt, that to listen to everything, believe nothing until you can prove it yourself being the truth. So, in essence, my suggestion is most of the bullshit that you hear, like doomsday disinfodunchy, is sprinkled with a grain of lies. So, take it for a grain of salt. Don't believe anything everybody says. Don't believe anything anybody says. Just don't believe it. Take it in for information. Gather it in, but, don't believe it until you can prove it's true. That's what inspired me to become an investigative reporter, to kind of follow along and collaborate to see what Bill Cooper was printing was accurate or not. Cooper wrote that he knew the government had dossiers on patriots who would likely resist the formation of a totalitarian police state under global command. Yes, and the Patriot movement, the militia movement, were the first to report the red, blue, yellow Roundup FEMA camp list, weren't we? Yeah. As a matter of fact, America Under Siege laid proof to that plan being laid out today under COVID-19, where the possibility of rounding up American citizens that were infected with the virus would be shipped off to a FEMA camp. Who might point that out, huh? And Indianapolis was once the training ground during Rex 84 exercises, Operation Garden Plot, and among other training exercises. But in Indianapolis, Indiana, Linda Thompson pointed out the likelihood and possibility how an old Amtrak station could be used to ship infected people into and use with the color coding triage system. What happens to people when they're too sick to live anymore? Bill Cooper wrote in his book that possibly the Patriots would most likely time would be Thanksgiving on the holidays, when people would be rounded up, taken off to a FEMA camp. He gave his readers a warning. And my recommendation is that no patriot should ever be at home or with their family members at the or in any holiday ever again. So less than half the text in Bill Cooper's Behold a Pale Horse are Cooper's words, with him producing documents in varying typefaces. And as you heard, the Congress critters in Washington claim, he also had the hate speech document known as the Protocols of Learned Elders of Zion. Secret plan by the big-nosed people to take over the world. So you might want to edit out, Bill Cooper suggested, the big-nosed people that are deceiving everyone. He suggested to replace big-nosed people with the Illuminati. And that the term goyim was a term for non-big-nosed people, or known as cattle, cows. G-O-Y, cow, is the English translation. So Swanson, a book publisher, said she has deleted in the most recent editions Bill Cooper's chapter on anti-Semitism. But since the years, it's still steadily growing despite never putting marketing money behind it. So how does Congress find and link all the people together in this conspiracy? I have no idea, but however they do it, they're generalizing of just about everybody in the country. Unfortunately, the militia movement is a term that is under the United States Code, which means every able male and woman. So, every able-bodied male or woman, citizen. So everyone is a member of the militia. So anybody wants to tell you any different, they're the ones that are not practicing the Constitution. They're the ones that are traitors. They're the ones that are terrorists. They're the ones that don't want to believe in protecting and preserving our constitutional rights and our Bill of Rights. So the book, the first found an audience among UFO aficionados. And since then, years later, while researching the conspiracies by Bill Cooper, I pretty much have touched upon everything written since back in ancient Rome. But the conspiracy theories we're talking about right now, and ever present, he said, is part of a human civilization long ago. And Bill Cooper wrote in his book, Behold a Pale Horse, he published that the oldest secret society, the most organized cult on the planet, was known as the Order of the Circle and Order of the Dragon and various other names as the Order of the Quest, and also part of the secret government running civilization. The Order of the Dragon, as I've discovered, is embedded in much of the United States military. I've now seen that, just like David Icke and his reptilian conspiracy theories, we're not wrong when we're pointing out that there must be some alien bloodline linked to a dragon reptilian species. And they've been ruling the planet ever since they took over in Babylon. Have you seen the gates of Babylon yet there? Anyone seen the gates of Bestseller and the dragon? Or how about any other culture features around the planet that include such a mythical creature? But Bill Cooper asserted his theories about shadowy forces bent on world domination and are still valid. The transition came as UFO culture faded in popularity. Where did I get Hayakawa? All right. Where'd it go, Americans? I missed. All right. Hayakawa lost touch with Cooper after he moved to Arizona. Hayakawa said Bill Cooper didn't want to talk to him anymore because he got mad. He got angry and angry as the years went by. Behold a Pale Horse became popular in New York prisons like Attica and Sing Sing, especially among black inmates. Mark Jacobson, who wrote a biography of Cooper, called Behold a Pale Horse writer, Jacobson said he couldn't find a practical explanation of why the book became so popular in New York prisons. His search for that first inmate who read it proved futile. But he said he found a philosophical reason for its popularity. Prisoners already think that the system is lined up against them, and Jacobson said in a phone interview, someone comes along like Bill Cooper, he's speaking your language, he said. The book is also sold on tables set up on sidewalks in Harlem. Rap artists mentioned Bill Cooper in their book, in his book, in their songs. Jacobson said he was walking in Brooklyn neighborhood in the 1990s when he saw his old dirty bastard of the Wu-Tang Clan. So we're going to move in and bring you up to speed and let you see mainstream news If you've never heard about William Cooper yet, well, let's sit back and listen to how the Patriot movement in Arizona is being influenced by Bill Cooper's politics.
Welcome to The Gaggle, an AZ Central podcast where we chat with reporters, experts, and special guests to keep you fully informed on the state's political news. I'm your host, Yvonne Winget-Sanchez. I cover national politics for the Arizona Republic.
And I'm Ron Hansen, also a national reporter for the Republic.
In today's episode, we're diving into the history of the Patriot movement here in Arizona.
We'll break down how the movement started and its impacts in local policy and how its rise is changing the Republican Party.
Investigative reporters Richard Ruelas and Rob Odell looked into the group for 6 months. Give us a bit of background of how you began reporting on this group.
We reviewed thousands of posts, comments, and photos and videos from a invitation-only Facebook page where as many as 1,400 members of the Patriot movement developed their beliefs and planned their activities over more than 2 years. A lot of their postings contained Islamophobic and racist rhetoric, and followers fell deeply into conspiracy theories and traded in false information.
We've seen members of the Patriot movement protest Democratic candidates and local city council meetings for a while now. How did this group get its start?
The Patriot movement kind of comes out of the rubble of what was the Tea Party, and the Tea Party kind of disintegrated after Ted Cruz drops out of the presidential race. And the Patriot movement essentially took what's always been a right wing of the Republican Party, but it's now a right wing of the Republican Party that really liked Donald Trump. And so when he became president, this group really followed along and got power. A lot of people know about the Patriot movement through Patriot Movement Arizona, this group started by Lisa Antone and Jennifer Harrison, who did some very public actions. And they got a lot of attention with some of their more provocative videos, going to events where they knew liberals would be, Democrats would be, and essentially with their megaphones and cell phones, shouting them down. And those videos ended up getting a lot of attention for this movement.
So give us a sense of what you uncovered. What are some of the main issues that the group really kind of follows and promotes, Rob?
Well, one of the main things that animates the group is they have this belief that Muslims are going to instill Sharia law in the country, and a lot of their focus is against Muslims and other immigrants. They're particularly animated by events that involving this, including when there was the caravans through Mexico. You know, you'd see a lot of comments, "Keep these savages out," drop bombs on them, napalm them, like really kind of sort of heinous things that they were saying out of sight. And the same thing about Muslims, crude insults about Muslims up and down. And then they also fell into the movement called QAnon, which has become popular, which has risen in popularity, the false conspiracy theory, I might say, QAnon, which has risen in popularity since it's taken hold on the right and since Trump has promoted it. And what QAnon calls for is they believe that there's a satanic cabal that runs the media and politicians, and they prey on children and literally suck children's blood.
Okay, so that's pretty outlandish stuff, it seems. Richard, how do they fall for this kind of stuff?
Well, it turns out QAnon's theories are, as far-fetched as they might sound, are not really novel. And Rob and I kind of fell down a rabbit hole of our own. And we found an author in Eager, Arizona, who wrote a book called Behold a Pale Horse. And in that book, he had included theories that date back to the Protocols of the Elders of Zion, this anti-Semitic fictional text that makes some of the same outlandish theories about blood libel and children being sacrificed by a powerful cabal. So Bill Cooper had a shortwave radio show and sort of trafficked in these theories that made people believe there was a global cabal out to get them. Bill Cooper ended up being killed by authorities in Arizona in 2001. I mean, I was here. It was a front page story. I don't think, though, we realized how big a deal William Cooper was. That book got passed around in prisons, in Attica and Sing Sing. Old Dirty Bastard was seen reading it by an author of Cooper's biography outside his Brooklyn stoop. Bill Cooper and Pale Horse are referenced in hip-hop songs. So although QAnon is a new conspiracy theory, the theories in it date back for centuries.
So, Rob, how has this movement impacted local policy here?
The Patriot movement began as a fringe of the Republican Party, but over time it's been able to assimilate itself into the party and push the party on specific issues. 2 years ago, in the Facebook group, the Patriot movement really had a big discussion about comprehensive sex education and how really what it was grooming kids to be sexually assaulted by adults and grooming kids to be gay and transgender. And then all of a sudden, several years later, you see mainstream Republicans making the same argument. And so what we found is that their ideas on this Facebook page have been able to influence Republican policy. Members of the group formed Purple for Parents, which is a counter group to the Red for Ed movement, and that group has also made noise statewide.
Yeah, and as we saw, as you may have noticed, we're in a pandemic, and as we saw the rallies to reopen the state at the state capitol, it's a lot of these people that we were seeing, this Patriot movement. A lot of those same characters are the ones who were at the Capitol.
So they're just using this to manipulate us, to put fear in the people of the United States.
Inside the lobby of the executive tower, inside Ducey's lobby, putting pressure on him to reopen the state. And the governor has said repeatedly that those protests did not affect his thinking, but he opened the state a lot sooner than he expected to. He seemed to accelerate that timeline. And seems like a lot of these people have also, once we found out who was in the group, we started seeing that a lot of them have climbed into the official operation of the Republican Party. There's a fairly low-level position called precinct committeeman, and it's essentially the ground game. You host signature gathering parties at your house or host debates for legislative candidates. It's just a ground game to get people in your neighborhood involved in politics. And a lot of patriots have become precinct committee people, seemingly with the aim not just of running the ground game, but of changing the direction of the Republican Party.
So some of these people are folks that high-profile Republican officials like Ducey, the late Senator John McCain, the former Senator Jeff Flake have really had to contend with, maybe at a less organized level in past elections. Why is this so relevant as we head towards the November 3rd election this year?
Well, one of the reasons it's so relevant is they've become a bigger force in the Republican Party. As the Republican Party has become smaller, members of they need this fringe group. They need this fringe group to vote for them because they're losing the suburban female voter. And in a lot of ways, the Patriot group is their new voter that they're going after. Many members of this Patriot group were not politically engaged prior to President Trump. For example, one of their leaders, Jennifer Harrison, was not registered to vote before she voted right before Trump was elected. So they're becoming a force.
Yeah, this group is where the Republican Party is finding its energy. I mean, at the rally in February that Trump held, I mean, people waiting outside hours in line to get in. There's a lot of both Patriot and QAnon supporters waiting in line, and you need that kind of feeling inside you in order to stick it out that long. We even found a tie. Bill Cooper, again, the author who was killed in 2001, the Pale Horse author, his right-hand man ran for Congress. He dropped out before the primary, but the threads of Cooper's legacy still continued on through this cycle.
And another reason for their rise is that we see Trump saying essentially the same things that they're saying on the Facebook group. So they form in response to Trump, but they become more influential within the party because Trump is essentially mouthing the same conspiracy theories or the same rhetoric that's in this group, and it's elevated them.
I mean, one thing we don't know, and we'll leave it up to you two as the political experts, is what an effect they'll have. I mean, Daniel McCarthy ran against Martha McSally, essentially expecting the energy of the Patriot group to move him forward. And it didn't go as well maybe as he thought. So it's unclear what role they'll play in this cycle.
That's all pretty provocative stuff. Guys, what do you want the audience to take away from your stories?
I think one, the influence that this group is having on the Republican Party and on policy in the state as well, whether that be reopening for COVID or sex education, and that two, a lot of this group's ideas and thoughts spring from a darker place of Islamophobia, hatred towards migrants, hatred towards LGBTQ, transgender. So I think those two things, their influence is on the rise, but that influence started from a pretty dark place.
Yeah, there's a lot of things, stories that we do that seem benign. You know, Maricopa County passes a Second Amendment Protection Act or something like that. You know, counties passing Second Amendment sanctuaries, or as Rob mentioned, the drive towards fighting for sex education in schools, or Kathy Hoffman somehow being labeled mean things on social media. Well, a lot of that emanates from the thoughts that we saw within this group. And again, it's to emphasize again, we're a long way away from that party of John McCain and Jeff Flake.
Rob and Richard, thanks so much for coming on to today's show. Really important reporting, and I hope our listeners will take a deep dive into it. You can find their stories on azcentral.com. For anyone who's interested in following your work, where can they find you on Twitter?
I'm at Relis Writings, RUELAS Writings.
And I'm at Rob Odell AZ.
So there you go. They're at odds with the rise of the political patriot movement. See, it took force in Arizona, they said, didn't it? Right there from some place that Bill Cooper lived. They're saying he's the main influence of QAnon, the militia, the Patriots. But they forgot to mention Ron Paul. They forgot to mention Ron Paul because Ron Paul also was influenced by Bill Cooper too. But who am I to point that out? That everything they talked about as precinct commitment, those that are getting involved in the Republican Party, is exactly everything that I've done and gotten to become. I'm a precinct commitment and, well, never know, state delegate too, trying to get Ron Paul elected as part of the Campaign for Liberty movement too that fizzled out after Ron Paul was pretty much pushed off to the side by dirty politics in Romney's camp. So, well, what a show, huh? Besides, to say the least, William Cooper's radio show soldered together a major movement and still alive today. The main reason the mysterious Q is being mentioned by so many opponents and enemies. His book still listed this year as the top-ranked book on Amazon in the UFO astrophysics categories. So, from living on a hilltop in Arizona to now, well, I guess we can pass on former William Cooper's condolences. Rest in peace, Bill. This fun suspicion you did rattle a few frickin' reptiles in their cages. So we'll leave it at this. God bless the Republic. Death to the New World Order. We are on the march. The Empire is on the run. We shall prevail. I am Never Know. Patriot Broadcasting and Liberty Tree Radio Field Reporter number 8510. But that was back in 1997. We've grown a few more since then, it sounds like, huh?
They're just using this to manipulate us, to put fear in the people of the United States.
You're listening to the Hour of the Time. I'm William Cooper.
Patrick Henry said, give me liberty or give me death. And what I say is I don't care if I die of corona. I don't care. Give me my freedom.
Stop believing what you're told and what you read and begin to find the truth for yourself.
You see, there really are some things worth dying for, and freedom is at the very top of the list.
Well, I consider him a great patriot.
The Patriot movement exists on the right wing of the Republican Party. Some members see shadowy forces at work in the world, the same forces that William Cooper saw decades before.
He had a broadcast station there, and he had a certain time at a radio station at the top of the Andes Mountains, for which he broadcast to the world his program called The Hour of the Time. And it was a scary program.
Is there a conspiracy? Yes. Are we being manipulated and controlled and guided into a new world order and a new world religion? Yes.
Cooper wrote a book, Behold a Pale Horse, filled with conspiracy theories.
If he wasn't exactly right, he was close to right. Very purposeful man.
Jacobs published the Round Valley paper, filled mainly with his own rantings about government.
We were on the same wavelength on many things. I wish to teach Democrats to be Republicans and teach Republicans to be constitutionalists. This is not an easy thing. It's a real problem in the world that you have people basing their lives on lies.
And if you don't accept that message and understand it, and if you don't adopt that philosophy, very soon you will lose freedom for yourselves and for all of your posterity.
We're in the fight of our life right now for the heart and soul of this country. We wanted the truth, and it was our pursuit of the truth that kind of led us into this role. Hey.
Jennifer Harrison has used her bullhorn and cell phone to draw attention to the Patriot movement. She has become a fixture at rallies protesting against illegal immigration, gun control, and, this year, in support of reopening the state in the midst of the COVID-19 pandemic. Her videos created a virtual clubhouse on Facebook for the state's Patriot movement.
Hey, this is you guys' song. Insane in the membrane. Going insane. They got no brain. I wouldn't call it an agitation. I would call it an opposition. Be nice. I like your rifle. What you got? I like to ask them the hard questions that nobody asks them. The questions that make them feel the most uncomfortable. Do you think that you don't have the same opportunities that I have?
I guarantee it. My life matters just as much as...
Let's try to discuss the issues that are important to you, too important to me, and let's see if we can find common ground.
How am I supposed to trust the police? How am I supposed to trust, let my little sister walk around? Like, come on, man. These are real life fears that black people have, that minorities have. We are scared.
There is a lot of not only misinformation out there, but there is also a lack of information. Mainstream media, when things get sticky for one side and they don't want to paint that side in a certain light, they'll cut the feed.
Vera casa, fuera, fuera.
But underneath the surface, some Patriot conversations were driven by hate. The Arizona Republic reviewed thousands of posts, comments, and videos on a closed Patriot Facebook page. They found a 2-year stream of racism, Islamophobia, xenophobia.
New bus just arrived in Mesa, straight from the border. Straight from the border to a church near you. Criminal, 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 criminal.
Members also shared wild conspiracy theories.
Any one of these children found to be child sex trafficked, it's on your hands.
Harrison saw something sinister in watching refugees arrive at churches.
Do we know if these children have been DNA tested, sir?
Churchgoers were volunteering to house the migrant families for a few days, but Harrison became convinced she was witnessing a child sex trafficking operation.
You don't want the American people to see.
She saw truths hidden by powerful figures. She needed to expose it and alert others. Though she had never heard of William Cooper, she was following in his spirit.
Because I believe we could get ourselves out of this situation if we will just open our eyes, our ears, and wake up.
There was kind of a lore about him. There were some stories that he was armed to the hilt up there, and up on that little hill, you have a pretty good view of the valley.
Cooper became increasingly paranoid.
And it appears that me and my wife have been targeted for imprisonment or extermination by the federal government for documenting and sourcing the truth about the tyranny and despotism of the Illuminati's coming.
One thing he discussed was that when the feds come to get him, he was going to kill them all. And he showed me how.
The second article of the amendment is nothing to do with the right to hunt or any of the other things that people bandy about. It's to protect us against our own government should it ever become oppressive.
When we drove up there that night to watch the lightning, we didn't expect anything like happened to us. We weren't up there 2 minutes and bam, his house lights went on. His pickup with his bright lights, he started driving right towards us, so I said, let's just go home. And he was on my bumper, right down into my driveway. As I approached his pickup, he got out and he said, I know that you are from the FBI, you're up here spying on me. He reached over and pulled out his handgun and he put that thing at my forehead and he said, you better find out who I am and never come up on this hill again.
Dr. Hamblin contacted the sheriff's office, who issued a warrant for his arrest, then created a plan to lure Cooper out. Deputies pretended to have a party on the hill.
He came out, the officers got out of the back of the truck to apprehend him, and then he started to fire, and so they fired on him. Bam, bam.
It's better to fall off trying to save freedom than to die in the chains.
This mask mandate is bull. Open up our schools, Governor Ducey! We know you are complicit with the globalists and their agenda!
Every true patriot has some sort of political activism in their blood because they care about what is going on in their country or in their state or in their city.
We got less than 90 days until the election!
Q is about taking back the country from globalists and from communists. And they've infiltrated the news, they've infiltrated the entertainment, they've infiltrated the politics.
Where's that gonna put you when you're voted out of office?
The get-up itself draws a lot of attention. If this guy's looking like this,
quite possibly behind bars!
Who the heck is Q?
Q, according to the theory that has gained traction among some patriots, is an informant with high-level Q security clearance, supposedly disseminating bits of top-secret information online.
Uh-oh, that flag is ripped. That needs to come down.
It's all coming out!
Q warns of a global cabal that leads a child sex trafficking ring and claims Donald Trump is investigating.
During the pandemic, the QAnon movement appears to be gaining a lot of followers. Can you talk about what you think about that and what you have to say to people who are following this movement right now?
Well, I don't know much about the movement other than I understand they like me very much, which I appreciate.
Help end child sex trafficking!
At the crux of the theory is this belief that you are secretly saving the world from this satanic cult of pedophiles and cannibals. Does that sound like something you are behind?
Well, I haven't heard that, but is that supposed to be a bad thing or a good thing? I mean,
Don't touch that dial unless you don't like to think, or unless you like being the puppet on the end of the string.
The spirit of tyranny is still alive. But the spirit of freedom is eternal, is it not?
You and your children and your grandchildren are worth dying for. Yep. And their freedom and their liberty must be paid for. And all I'm asking you is to vote them out. Because I don't want to have to shoot them again.
This is for the soul of our nation. And I need every single one of you to stop what you're doing as soon as we go live on your Facebook, go live on your social media, and we're going to march right over there to that Capitol building, and we're going to tell them to reopen our economy right now.
In late April, protesters converged on the state capitol, demanding the governor open up businesses ordered shut down due to the COVID-19 pandemic. For them, this was no longer a policy debate. They saw it as a battle over freedom. The protests became a trading post for radical theories. Some attendees, not all, were followers of Q, and COVID-19 sparked new conspiracies.
It came to my attention very early in this coronavirus process that we were being heisted. This is the biggest fraud in American history, and we're done with it.
In May, the governor accelerated the reopening of the state, even though his own health data didn't justify it. Over the next few weeks, COVID deaths and cases would soar in Arizona.
The governor doesn't tell us what we can do. We tell the governor what to do.
In the crowd were several state lawmakers and candidates. One, Daniel McCarthy, was challenging Martha McSally for the U.S. Senate seat. McCarthy did not espouse QAnon theories himself. Though McCarthy lost badly, he vowed to keep up the political fight.
Guys, when I said we were in a war as a country, I'm not exaggerating. Right now, we're in a war as a country. This doesn't end. It doesn't matter what happens here tonight. We're going to win this war one way or the other.
Patriot leaders will be rounded up. There will be house-to-house searches for arms. Many patriots will go to ground, and there will be a civil war in this country. If you are not prepared, ladies and gentlemen, you had better begin to get prepared now.
Some patriots echo that language. They talk of taking up arms in resistance. For them, this is beyond policy. It is the survival of the nation.
Well, the Patriot movement is not the future of a party, it's the future of our country.
Republicans need to acknowledge the fact that the Patriots are the ones that are on the front lines. We're the ones that can rally the people together, and we're not the stuffy establishment type that votes once every election, and that's the end of it.
The politics of today are so intense on both sides that you don't know where the truth is.
In a society that swims in lies, telling the truth is a revolutionary act. And a lot of the time, the truth is stranger than fiction.
If you cannot believe the government, you got to have something you can believe. So you believe this guy or that guy or the boogeyman or whatever.
That Cooper was killed by government authorities helped cement his legacy among conspiracy theorists. His book remains a bestseller 30 years after it was first published. People are still heeding his call to wake up and to question everything.
Nobody can do anything to us without our ignorance, apathy, stupidity, irresponsibility, and complete cooperation. Until tomorrow night, good night, and God bless you all.
God bless the Republic.
Yes, to the New World Order.
We shall prevail, ladies and gentlemen. The Empire is on the run.
And we are on the march, day and night.
Hoorah. Thank you, gentlemen. Guys, we'll be back at 8 o'clock. Meanwhile, BC coming up next. Don't you touch that dial, because we got a lot more live radio on Liberty Tree Radio.
Plant the seed in our homeland, boys. Let it grow where all can see. Feed it with our devotion, boys. Call it the Liberty Tree. It's a tall old tree and a strong old tree. And we are the sons, yes, we are the sons of liberty. Save it from the storm, boys. Water down its roots with tea. And the sun will always shine on the old Liberty Tree. It's a tall old tree and a strong old tree. And we are the sons, yes, we are the sons of liberty. March along with the Piper boys, we were born forever free. Let's go pay the Piper boys beneath the Liberty Tree. It's a tall old tree and a strong old tree. And we are the sons, yes, we are the sons of liberty. Pay the price they're asking, boys, always pay the tyrant's fee. Never...
Bringing you the sound of the revolution. Thank you for listening to LibertyTreeRadio.4mg.com.
We all